She's our Executive Director for National RTAP. Patty?
Thanks, Rob. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. Well, welcome everyone in the audience, and thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start off the webinar with a brief introduction, and then Jess Wallace will give us a tour of the How to Find Almost Anything Toolkit, which has been on our website, nationalrtap.org, since last month. Next, Shannon Greenwell will give us a look at the Transit Manager's Toolkit, and Rob will come back on and walk us through the Bus Rodeo Toolkit. The Transit Manager's Toolkit and the Bus Rodeo Toolkit are on our website beginning today, and you can find those on the Toolkits tab on our homepage. And once we finish all the tours, then we'll take your questions. Many of the National RTAP products to date, like our technical briefs and guides like how to buy a vehicle, have been in the form of documents that you could either download or print. In the past year or so, though, we began to think of online toolkits as a way to get current information out to customers quickly and conveniently, so we've been moving more in that direction with some of our newer products. The online format also enables us to use videos and photos and to provide links directly to additional resources. The online format also makes it easier to keep the toolkit contents up to date and to add new sections or topics as needed. In addition to the 3 toolkits that we're showing you today, we have a State RTAP Manager's Toolkit coming soon, and we also have a Marketing Transit Toolkit in the works a little bit farther down the road. So now I will turn the presentation over to Jess for a look at the How to Find Almost Anything Toolkit.
Thanks, Patty. All right, can you see my screen? All right, so I am going to give you a little overview of the How to Find Almost Anything Toolkit. First, we're just starting on the home page so that you can see exactly how we can get to our toolkits from the home page. As you see, there's a Toolkits tab in the toolbar, and you see the 3 toolkits that we're going to talk about today right in the toolbar. So the first one is Find Anything, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. As you can see, it opened up in a new window, so if you do need to get back to our home page, you can always just click the other window or tab. So the How to Find Almost Anything Toolkit is a toolkit connecting rural and tribal transit stakeholders to information. So basically, it's a guide to many of the free and low-cost training, technical assistance, and informational resources in rural and tribal transit. And these are all things that we can link to online. It's designed for transit providers and state DOT program managers and any other person in any organizations looking for rural and tribal transit information. So I'm going to go right down through the left-hand toolbar to give you an idea of what's in this toolkit. As you can see, the left-hand toolbar is also reflected in the table of contents right here, but it may just be easier for you to keep to the toolbar. So I just clicked on Start the Search. This section is basically a very general guide to how you can find more information online than what's in this toolkit. And that includes how you can better search for information, how you can narrow down a topic by using the internet, and basically just be able to do a better search and find more easily what you are looking for. And to start off with that, you would basically formulate a statement or question or information request. So think about what you are going to be wanting to find out. And this page is all about how to do that. And then the next page is how you can actually do a more specific search. and I included links to some basic search tips that you may not have known before. And those are very helpful. I encourage you to check those out. And finally, if you can't find exactly what you're looking for online, there are a number of other resources that you can use. And that's by contacting a number of different places, such as your public library or your local chamber of commerce, for example, in case you're looking for local resources, local programs or grant money, and other types of organizations. And finally, we have a little section on how to just put it all together, which is a summary of the Start the Search section. Next, we go right into our collections of links. And this section is the free and low-cost resources that you can find online. First off is the peer assistance. So this is basically how to make contact with your peers through formal peer programs. For example, National RTAP offers a peer program, and AASHTO's MTAP program is also a peer program for, a type of peer program at least, for state program managers. So I will mention that not all of these resources in the entire toolkit are applicable to everybody. You'll just have to see what's applicable to you, whether you're a state RTAP manager or, you know, a driver. Different things are going to be applicable to you. We'll go right down to online dialogues and forums. So this is basically a list of places where you can find online discussions and conversations and engage with your peers through an online portal. Under information and best practices, these are basically a collection of links in different subjects that you can find online. And right up here we have this handy little list. So if you click on any of these, you'll actually be taken to the section within this page that deals with that topic. Otherwise, you can actually just go ahead and scroll down, which is what I'm going to do. So for example, if you were looking for information on persons with disabilities, you could go to any of these websites, and those are all going to have information that you will want to look at. The same with funding. We have a pretty good funding section. So that's just information resources on how to write grant applications, get funding, you know, different kinds of funding that you might be interested in. So we're going to go right back up to the top. Actually, we're going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to mention to you that there's this arrow right here that goes back to the top. So if you click on that, that'll take you right back up there without having to just scroll all the way up. So the hot topics section is just what we consider to be timely topics that people would be more interested in than perhaps just the normal rural and tribal transit topics. So we have safety and security in here and a couple of other ones. And there's also links to our topic guides. And if you haven't seen our topic guides, you can actually find those in our resource library. They're not so different from each of these sections, but we didn't want to duplicate the work. So if you are looking for information on, for example, ADA, defensive driving, tribal transit, etc., you know, I would recommend that you also look at these topic guides up here. All right, we're going to go down to the technical assistance section, and it's the same deal right here. So these are all the sections within the technical assistance page, and you can click on one or you can just scroll right down. And this is where you would find that one-on-one or very targeted approach to what issues you may be facing in your organization, and getting that really the one-on-one kind of help. So we do have that for all of these topics. I'm going to go right back up to the top again. And the final page in this free and low-cost resources section is the technology tools. So these are just a listing of different technology tools that are free and low cost. So that's why, you know, we don't include every single technology tool that you might use in your organization on this list. So this is a guide to, you know, different sort of low-cost scheduling and dispatching software, and then a lot of the national RTAP web apps are on this page as well. And I will also mention that if you are looking through any of these free and low-cost resources, or really any page on this toolkit or any other toolkit, and you don't see a resource that you think is really good that belongs on the toolkit, or you would like to see resources about something in particular, you can always go to the Submit a Topic or Resource over here and click to suggest your topic. All right, so the Training and Conferences section is basically resources, again, about training and different conferences that you might want to attend as a state program manager or as a provider. So this is a list of training which includes online webinars, conferences, other in-person, standalone training events, anything like that. This is where you might find this on a national level. And we'll go over to conferences. These are some conferences that you may be interested in that typically rural and tribal transit providers and state program managers do attend. And then we have a couple of different appendices at the bottom, which the first one is for digital news and blogs, and that's a nice list of newsletters that you might think about subscribing to get information, up-to-date, industry-specific information, and some blogs that you might think about reading in case you want to keep up to date on those things as well. We also have a list of the state transit associations. We did our best to link to as many state transit association websites as we could find. But you do notice that not every state has a transit association or has a website for their transit association. And finally, the list of the state RTAP and 5311 program websites is right here. And the same thing goes for this. Not every state or territory does have an RTAP webpage or a 5311 specific webpage, and so we didn't link to those. But that's basically this toolkit. If you have any questions, or again, if you think of any resources that you would like to see on this, we will definitely take that into consideration, and you can just use the Submit a Topic or Resource box over here. So I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen over to Shannon Greenwell, who's going to talk about the Transit Managers Toolkit.
Great, thanks, Jess. Alrighty, and hopefully everybody should be seeing my screen at this point. Next, I'd like to talk about the Transit Managers Toolkit. And again, as Jess had mentioned earlier, you can get to this toolkit either from the homepage of our main national RTAP website, or if you'd like to get directly to the toolkit, you can enter this web address and it will take you to the same landing page. And this was developed because our review board members felt that new transit managers needed something as soon as they stepped into the position that gave them guidance as to the main areas they should be focused on. And we decided that this toolkit would specifically focus on transit managers who receive 5311 money, so it would address the compliance issues tied to that funding source. And it's not really intended to replace any more intense training that you might send a transit manager to. And we have a link right here to the CERTC course, the Principles of Transit Management. It doesn't go into quite that much detail, but it is geared to be something to hold a transit manager over until they could get more guidance, or after they've done a program like that and maybe they've been working for a few years, it can be a nice reference that they could go back to. We've divided the content into 3 major sections, and you'll see that the toolbar lists all of those sections. The first is Administration and Compliance, and that covers everything from mission and leadership to ADA, civil rights, human resources, and each of these labels is a link. We also cover operations issues, coordination and mobility management, safety and security, And then we also have 3 pages that are specifically geared toward tribal transit. And you'll see those 3 topics there. We also have a resources section, and I will click on the administration and compliance. This lists all of the pages that fall under administration and compliance, and it includes all of the sources of information found on the website, as well as additional helpful resources or forms or samples. So you'll see here it's broken out into each of the topics by page. And now I'll just click into one of our inner pages. This is the mission and leadership page. You'll see it has the top heading, and there are additional subheadings that follow it. And this page gives some general information about the vision for your agency, creating a mission statement, how you can communicate that to your staff, and then making sure your vision and your mission statement are carried through everything that you do in your operations. We have resources and sources that are linked throughout the text. So for example, here are the National RTAPs roles and responsibilities of transit managers. And you can also find a full list of all of the sources for the information on that page at the bottom. And each of these purple links does bring you directly to either that resource itself or to the website where you could order that resource or download the PDF. And I'll just use this back to top arrow to get back up to the top. Now, some of the inner content pages are really more about bigger picture issues. An example of that is the mission and leadership. Now, other content areas are going to be more focused on requirements and regulations. And a good example of one of those sections is the ADA section. Here, it is mostly focused on the requirements under ADA. There are links to all of the helpful pieces of regulations. And as you go through and you read the different requirements, you'll see where in the regulation you can go back and actually get more information about that. So we hope that this will provide a good overview of what you should be considering, and we also hope that it will give you the tools to go back to the regulations and really dive down deep into a particular issue that you need to find information about. Another good example of that structure is this page on the 5311 grant management requirements. This covers both requirements that are specific to 5311 and some of the more general grant management requirements. So as we scroll down here, you'll see that it references the Circular 9040.1F, and it tells you exactly which page in that circular you're able to find more information about that topic. Currently, our toolkit is focused on the safety regulations, except for the Tribal Transit Program section, which can be found in this third section. That does include some of the MAP 21 information. And once more information comes out about MAP 21, we will be adding to this toolkit to cover those changes, but we will also be keeping the safety information as well, because we recognize that there might be agencies that are spending both types of money at the same time. If you'd like to find out more about MAP 21, we do have a page dedicated to that topic with some high-level overview information, as well as some links to other helpful places such as Federal Register notices and, of course, the FTA MAP 21 page. We also have another page that covers federal circulars, specifically the FTA and the OMB circulars that would be helpful for transit managers. So here you have a list of the FTA circulars based on the safety regulations, as well as some of those OMB circulars that is helpful for transit managers to be aware of. And we just really like to emphasize that this is meant to be a guidance tool and to go over the highlights. and it's by no means an exhaustive list of everything that you need to be in compliance with if you are receiving 5311 funding. But we hope that some of the resources and some of the regulations that we point you to will make it a little bit easier for both new managers and for experienced managers who just need to come back and look something up quickly. I also wrote down we had a very active work group for this project who did a lot of help with choosing the topics and reviewing some of the content, and those work group members are listed here, as well as a table of contents if you'd like to look at all of the topics all at once, and these are all hyperlinked to those places on the website. So that is it for the Transit Manager's Toolkit. As Jess says, if you find yourself going through the toolkit and we haven't covered something that you need information about, you can, of course, click this Suggest a Topic link, and we'll take all of those suggestions under consideration when we go ahead and think about adding these sections to the toolkit. So next, I'm going to hand things over back to Rob Tessaneri, who's going to take us through the Bus Rodeo Toolkit. Rob?
Okay, thank you, Shannon. Let me just bring up my screen. The Bus Rodeo Toolkit comes from actually a recommendation made by our review board as well. And they just wanted us to develop a tool that helped agencies and transit associations as well as other organizations plan for and implement a bus rodeo. I think you'll also find that this toolkit would be helpful to train drivers who will be competing in a bus rodeo. There's a lot of helpful information within this toolkit. With this particular toolkit, it's all on one page, okay? We do have the left-hand toolbar here that will get you between the different sections of the page. What I wanted to do today is show you a couple of the kind of like the major items of the toolkit. Fortunately, in the process of developing this toolkit, the Connecticut Department of Transportation and Connecticut Transit were conducting a bus rodeo. So we were able to actually videotape the rodeo and use that as an instructional guide as part of this toolkit. In order to access the video, you can certainly see it online, but you can also order it at the Resource Center in the National RTAPs Resource Center, Resource Library. Let me show you just one of the videos on the video page. I clicked on the video page. You'll notice that there is a full video, 22 minutes worth, and then we've segmented the video so that in the event that you watch the video once and you realize that there's a bunch of information that you're familiar with and other information that you'd like to review occasionally, we've segmented it out. There's the introduction, who should attend, and now who should attend would include these little sections here, and judges, volunteers, drivers, and others. There's also the judging and scoring section. You can watch the whole video of that part, or just go to a particular obstacle within the course. For example, what I'm going to do is just show you what the right-hand reverse is. For those of you that are watching this using your computer speakers, not a problem. What I'm going to do is move my telephone over to a speaker so that those that are using their telephone, they'll be able to hear the audio as well. So you click on the link to the video, it'll come up, and then just click on play.
The next obstacle is the right-hand reverse. This is a test of the contestant's ability to simulate a bus backing up between two objects. Cones are positioned to designate a through lane and a lane. Let's call it the alley that the vehicle will be backed into. There is a pivot cone at the front of the alley on the passenger side and a rear cone at the end of the alley. Once again, it's advised to spray paint along the outer edge of each cone so that you can place the cone in the correct position in the event it is moved during the competition. The judge on the passenger side of the vehicle will note which cones are touched from the passenger side view and measures the distance between the rear cone and the closest point to the bus when the bus is more than 36 inches from the rear cone. The judge on the other side of the through lane observes the left front of the vehicle when entering the obstacle and the left rear while the vehicle is backing into the alley. Once the vehicle is stopped, the contestant must take the vehicle out of gear before the measurement is taken. Once the measurement is taken, the judge taps on the vehicle to let the contestant know the measurement has been taken. The contestant can achieve 50 points on this obstacle. If the vehicle touches the rear cone, the contestant loses 25 points. The contestant loses 10 points if the vehicle touches the pivot cone. 5 points each for all other cones that are touched. 10 points each if the vehicle is shifted into reverse after the initial shift into reverse, and 5 points for each 12-inch segment beyond the 36-inch limit from the rear cone.
Okay, that'll give you an example of what the quality of the video is. You can certainly view all different sections, as I said. There's obstacles and non-obstacle course items, personal appearance, smoothness of operation, and a closing. Once you're finished listening to the videos, you can just click on the National RTAP logo in order to get back to the toolkit. Another document that you might find of interest is the actual measurements within the course for each obstacle. You just click on the course, and you'll see click here for measurement sheets. This actually comes from a document that the North Carolina DOT and Transit Association put together in 2008, and we're just borrowing it because we think that certainly the ability to measure each obstacle correctly is important. You'll notice that all the typical obstacles are included within this particular guide that you'll be able to print out or save. These are PDFs, so you can go down to the right-hand side of the screen and either save it or print it for your documents. Just go up to the top. The other item that you might find of interest is the judges' scoring sheets. So we just click on judging, and a whole bunch of information about judging. But under scoring, we have the ability to download scoring sheets. These are scoring sheets that Connecticut uses that they've allowed us to put up onto this website. You'll notice that they are all the different obstacles that are typically on your rodeo, bus rodeo, as well as other non-obstacle types of grading by the judges, personal appearance, safety habits, smoothness of operation, time penalty, wheelchair loading and securement, and the pre-trip inspection. Now, if you have an obstacle course that doesn't follow the number sequence that we have, there is another version of it without the number up on top that you can print out and then just write in the numbers to be in the correct sequence with the course that you've designed. The other item that we hope will be helpful to folks is an Excel file that helps with scoring. And I'll quickly go through this. First page or first tab is an instruction sheet that just explains how to use this. There's a master sheet, and this enables the transit agency to go in and change the scoring points for each obstacle if they decide to do that. In the event that they're not going to use an obstacle that we have listed here, then they would take the possible score and just put it at 0 and it wouldn't be counted. But you'll notice that we have all the typical obstacles that are in the bus rodeo. We have it set up for a 7-minute course. If in the event that your course is less or more, you can go in and change the time period for the course. And then for wheelchair loading and securement, these are also areas that can be changed as well as the score. When you change it from the master sheet, it just goes through all the other sheets within the Excel file. The next sheet is the summary sheet, but first I want to talk about the contestant sheet. This is a sheet that a person would use as they're inputting the contestant score. Let me just reduce this a little bit and bring up a contestant score just to give you an idea of how this works. This is all protected so that the person inputting the data can only go into the gray areas. So we have a score sheet here for contestant number 2. We'll just call this a test. So we type in test, contestant number 2, and then hitting the tab, it automatically goes to the next gray. With this score sheet, you'll notice that the person did unfortunately hit the pivot cone, and so we just put a yes there, and it does a calculation of 25 points. They didn't hit any other cones. They did have to do it in reverse, and they did that once. Type in 1, and it does the calculations for you. So in a way, you're really just noting what the judge put down, and you don't have to worry about the calculations. Now let's just say that they ended up hitting 2 cones. You'll notice that that's actually more than 50 points, and since you can't be deducted more than 50 points, the spreadsheet does a calculation and just makes it a 0 instead of a -5. I'm just going to clean this up. But they would just tab through all these. Actually, I want to keep this in there so you'll be able to see the summary. So we have a yes, and then we have 1. Okay, I'm not going to fill out the whole thing. I don't want to lose any of the audience. On the summary sheet, you'll notice that that information's been carried over. Test, the driver number. They scored 15 points in the serpentine obstacle. You'll notice that we have the obstacles all here, as well as the non-course obstacles listed here, and then the time penalty, and then the spreadsheet will automatically calculate the score. We also have the minutes and the seconds for each one of those drivers that will be pulled up. And then what you can do, I don't know how to write a macro yet, but maybe in time that will be something that I can do for this. In the event that you wanted to sort to see who was the top scorer, you just select the area that you want to sort. You go into custom sort, and don't worry, there's instructions on doing this. We want to sort by the final score. We want largest to smallest to see who the highest score is, and then we'd hit the OK. I'm not going to do that right now. And then it would list those that had scored the highest. Now, in the event that you have some ties, you would have the minutes and the seconds for the contestant's course time listed right next to their score, so that you'd be able to maybe make a judgment call on there was a tie, but this person had the best score, the best time for the course, and so therefore they're the winner. This is designed for the body on chassis, but certainly it can be used for other vehicles as well. We recommend that you have a spreadsheet for each vehicle type. And then you can save this and keep it for your records. And the next time that you have a bus rodeo, you can just download a new spreadsheet without any data on it. Or you can save the spreadsheet and just save it as a template. Okay, and that is it for the spreadsheet, as well as the presentation on the Bus Rodeo Toolkit. Once again, the information is all on one page, and if you need to access any of these items, you would just click on it, and it will automatically go to that location. Okay, at this point, we will be looking for questions and answers. Sorry, but here we go. If there are any questions that people have, hold on, let me see. We have one question: how do I get to the toolkits from the main National RTAP website? I can answer that. When you're at the main website, under the top toolbar, the top bar, you would just click on the Toolkit tab, and you'll be able to get to the toolkits. Okay. Okay, we have, hi, great webinar. We, the Commonwealth Office of Transit Authority, or COTA, are just starting a transit system. We just completed a feasibility study to start a fixed flex route and paratransit system, including bus stop designation, design, and construction. Is there a resource or TA we can get assistance in implementing such system? We're also conducting a ferry system study and like to see some resources on ferries. What we'll do for this person is just follow up offline after the webinar in order to answer your question. We have your email address and all that. Any other questions? Okay. Is the Transit Manager's Toolkit going to cover MAP 21? Jess, Shannon, if you want to answer that question.
Sure, I'll take that one. Currently, for the Tribal Transit Program, it does have the MAP 21 information, but as we get more information and the proposed circular is made final, we will certainly be rewriting a lot of the toolkit to include that information. And again, we'll have both the Safety U and the MAP 21 information at the same time. If we do add some significant sections to the toolkit, we'll certainly advertise that in our e-news newsletter that goes out, so people will be aware of when things change like that.
Okay, thank you, Shannon. We have a question. If I want to find information on bus stop design standards quickly, I could just type, for example, bus stop design standards in the search box, and we'll get all the resources on this topic. That'll be a question for you, Jess.
That's something that is not currently in the How to Find Anything toolkit. So if you do specifically want information on that and think that we should put that information in our toolkit, you can click on the Submit a topic button. But normally, if you have a very specific question like that, you should just email us or chat with us, info@nationalrtap.org.
Okay, thanks, Jess. We have another question that actually Jess kind of just answered. What if I can't find what I'm looking for or have a question about one of the toolkits?
Yep, that's the same thing. You should get in touch with us.
Okay. Are there any questions out there? We've run out of questions. I guess our presentations were thorough enough. Of course, if you do have questions, you can communicate with us via our website at www.nationalrtap.org, where you can chat with us or send an email to us. You can also reach us by telephone, and that number is not in my head. Hold on a sec.
Rob, that's 888-589-6821. And that's right at the top of our webpage, too.
Okay. And looks like that's the end of our questions. Patty, any final words?
Yes. Thank you, Rob, and thanks to Shannon and Jeff also for your presentations. We encourage you all to take a look at the toolkits. We hope you find them helpful, and if you do, or if you have suggestions for making them better, please let us know either way. And I'd just like to say thank you again for joining us, and our webinar is now concluded.